My bride kept sneaking away during our wedding reception. Then her ex showed up. The disaster started with a text message. Not a dramatic one, not a romantic one, just 3 words. I'm here, Jake. Jessica, one of Emma's bridesmaids, wasn't trying to snoop. Emma had left her phone on a table while taking photographs with relatives. The screen lit up. Jessica glanced down automatically, then froze. Because she knew exactly who Jake was. Emma's ex-boyfriend. The boyfriend from college. The one she'd dated before meeting Ethan. Before Jessica could process it, another message appeared. Everything depends on tonight. Jessica stared at the screen. Her stomach dropped. That didn't sound good. At all. A second later, Emma returned, picked up her phone, read the messages, typed a reply, slipped the phone into her purse, and immediately looked toward the ballroom entrance, then toward the side exit, then back toward the entrance. She looked nervous, not guilty, nervous. And then she hurried away through the side door. Jessica watched her leave. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Across the ballroom, the reception continued normally. Music, laughter, dancing, children running between tables, Ethan talking with friends. Nobody had any idea a train wreck was quietly beginning. Then the front doors opened. A man entered. Jessica looked up and almost dropped her drink. Jake. The actual Jake. Emma's ex-boyfriend. He was older than she remembered, better dressed, more confident, but definitely Jake. Jessica immediately looked toward Olivia, the maid of honor. Olivia followed her gaze and immediately stopped smiling. That reaction was all Jessica needed. Now she knew she wasn't imagining things. Jake was really there. The problem was that Jake wasn't acting like someone who had accidentally walked into the wrong wedding. He walked into the ballroom and scanned the crowd, searching, looking. Then his eyes stopped. Across the room. Emma. At that exact moment, Emma was slipping through the side exit. Jake's face changed. Relief. He started moving immediately, fast. Not running, but definitely moving with purpose. 30 seconds later, he disappeared through the same exit. Jessica stared. Olivia stared. A cousin nearby stared. Nobody spoke. Then Sarah appeared, unfortunately. What happened? Jessica pointed. Jake. Sarah looked. Too late. He had already vanished. Jake? Emma's ex. Sarah's eyes widened. He's here? Jessica nodded. And he just followed Emma outside. The rumor was born. 5 minutes later it had grown legs, because weddings are not made of facts. They're made of people, and people talk. Jessica told Olivia. Olivia told another bridesmaid. A bridesmaid told her boyfriend. The boyfriend told a cousin. The cousin told an uncle. The uncle told his wife. Every retelling changed slightly, not intentionally, just enough. Jake is here. Became, Jake came for Emma. Then, Jake followed Emma. Then, Jake and Emma left together. Meanwhile, Ethan was completely unaware. He was standing near the dance floor laughing with Daniel, for perhaps the last time that evening. The first hint something was wrong came when he noticed Olivia. The maid of honor looked pale. Then he noticed Sarah whispering to 2 cousins. Then another bridesmaid. Then another. People kept looking toward the side exit. The mood felt strange, like everyone knew something except him. Daniel noticed it too. Why are your wife's relatives acting like they're planning a coup? Ethan laughed. I don't know. Then Jessica arrived. She looked nervous. Very nervous. Daniel. His smile disappeared immediately. Nobody says your name like that at a wedding unless something is wrong. What happened? Jessica hesitated, then said, Jake is here. Daniel frowned. Jake who? Nobody answered. Then realization hit. Oh. Jessica nodded. Oh. Daniel looked toward Ethan, then back at Jessica, then back at Ethan. Nobody liked where this conversation was heading. What happened? Ethan asked. Jessica hesitated. Jake came. Okay. He saw Emma. Ethan's smile faded. Okay. And then, Jessica swallowed. He followed her outside. The silence was immediate. Daniel looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at Jessica. Nobody moved. For several seconds, nobody even spoke. Finally, Ethan laughed. A small, nervous laugh. What? Jessica didn't laugh back. That was when his stomach tightened. You're serious. She nodded. Now Daniel was concerned. Very concerned. Where's Emma? Jessica pointed toward the side exit. Outside. How long ago? Maybe 7 or 8 minutes. That wasn't good. Not terrible, but not good. Then Sarah arrived, making everything worse. I heard he came because she invited him. Daniel closed his eyes. Sarah. What? Stop. I'm just saying what I heard. I came because she asked me to. The sentence hit the crowd like a grenade. For a second, nobody moved. Then everybody reacted at once. What? She invited him? Oh my God. Sarah actually took a step backward. Jessica covered her mouth. Olivia closed her eyes. Daniel muttered something that sounded suspiciously like a prayer. Ethan didn't move at all, and somehow that was worse. Emma looked from face to face, then at Jake, then back at the crowd. What are you talking about? Jake looked confused. What do you mean? I never asked you to come. Jake immediately pulled out his phone. Emma, these are literally your messages. The sight of the phone made Emma's stomach drop. Not because she knew what was in it, because she recognized it. The messages were real, or at least they looked real. Jake unlocked the screen, then turned it around. Please come tonight. The crowd went silent. Swipe. Everything depends on tonight. Another swipe. Don't tell Ethan. The silence somehow became worse. Emma stared at the screen, then at Jake, then back at the screen. The messages were hers, every word, which immediately made everything look terrible. Ethan felt something twist in his chest, not because he believed Emma had done anything, because he couldn't understand what he was looking at. Emma looked at him. That hurt more than the messages. The look on Ethan's face wasn't anger, it was confusion, the kind that comes right before heartbreak. Ethan, Jake interrupted. See? Daniel closed his eyes. Jake. What? Please stop helping. I'm explaining. You're making it worse. Jake frowned, then made it worse. When I got those messages, I thought maybe... Daniel immediately pointed. No. What? No sentence starting with those words is going to help. Unfortunately, Jake continued anyway. I thought maybe she was having second thoughts. The crowd exploded. Emma's mother gasped. Jessica looked horrified. Sarah whispered, I knew it. Daniel spun around. You knew absolutely nothing. Emma stared at Jake. What? Jake lifted both hands. Think about it. Nobody wanted him to continue. He continued. You haven't spoken to me in years. Because we broke up. Exactly. That's not helping your argument. Jake ignored her. Then suddenly I start getting messages. He pointed at the phone. Please come tonight. Swipe. Everything depends on tonight. Swipe. Don't tell Ethan. He looked around. What was I supposed to think? Emma's father arrived at exactly the wrong moment. He had heard enough to be dangerous, not enough to understand. Emma. She immediately looked miserable. Dad. Do you want to explain what's happening? I've been trying. Then explain. I can't. That answer landed badly. Very badly. Sarah looked at Jessica. Jessica looked away. Olivia looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. Ethan felt his stomach sink further, because from the outside, that answer sounded awful. Emma saw it immediately. No, not like that. Then like what? Her father asked. Emma opened her mouth. then stopped, because she couldn't explain. Not yet. Not without ruining everything. Not without exposing the surprise. And every second she hesitated made her look worse. Jake noticed. The crowd noticed. Worst of all, Ethan noticed. The silence stretched. Then Jake delivered another disaster. When I saw her leave the reception, I thought she was coming to meet me. Several people groaned out loud. Daniel covered his face. Mark, one of Ethan's friends, quietly handed another friend his drink. The friend frowned. Why? Mark started rolling up his sleeves. Daniel immediately pointed. No. What? No. I'm not doing anything. You are literally preparing for violence. I'm emotionally preparing. Prepare emotionally with your sleeves down. Meanwhile, Emma looked ready to scream. I was not coming to meet you. Jake frowned. Then why did you leave? Emma froze. The crowd leaned in. She couldn't answer. Not honestly. Not yet. Because the answer was sitting 20 feet away inside a large enclosed trailer, and she desperately wanted Ethan to see it first. Unfortunately, the longer she stayed silent, the worse she looked. Even her own mother was struggling. Emma, her voice cracked. Emma turned. The look on her mother's face broke her heart. Not anger. Fear. Real fear. Fear that her daughter might be destroying her own marriage. Mom, just tell us the truth. There is a truth. Then tell us. I can't. Another terrible answer. Daniel groaned. Oh, this is a disaster. Jake looked around helplessly. I feel like everyone thinks I'm the bad guy. 20 people stared at him. Jake nodded slowly. Fair. Then Ethan finally spoke. His voice was quiet. Dangerously quiet. Help. Jake blinked. What? You said you thought she wanted help. Jake instantly regretted being alive. Oh. Help doing what? Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Jake looked at Emma, then at Ethan, then at Daniel, then at the crowd, and somehow chose the worst option. I thought maybe she wanted help leaving. The reaction was immediate. Emma's father stepped forward. Mark stepped forward. 3 cousins stepped forward. Daniel jumped between everybody. No! The entire scene became chaos. People talking over each other. Emma shouting. Jake apologizing. Sarah gasping. Jessica nearly crying. Olivia trying unsuccessfully to calm people down. And Ethan standing in the middle of it all, looking like every sentence was hitting him physically. Then Emma snapped. Stop! The entire crowd froze, even Jake. Emma pointed directly at him. If you got those messages, Jake nodded, why didn't you call me? The question cut through everything. Jake blinked. What? Why didn't you call me? I did. The crowd paused. Emma frowned. What? I called twice. No, you didn't. I did. No, I absolutely did. Emma immediately pulled out her phone. No missed calls, nothing. She turned the screen around. See? Jake frowned. Now he looked confused. Not fake confused, actually confused. Daniel stepped forward. Show me. Jake handed him the phone. Daniel looked at the call log, then sighed heavily. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. What? Ethan asked. Daniel slowly turned the phone around. At the top of the contact it said, Emma, old silence. Jake looked embarrassed. Emma stared. You've been calling my old number? Jake blinked. I thought you switched back. Why would I switch back? I don't know. Nobody does that. Daniel nodded. Nobody does that. For the first time all evening, a tiny crack appeared in the disaster. A tiny one. Not enough, but something. Emma looked at Jake, then frowned. Wait. What? If you were messaging an old number, Jake nodded, then how did you know I was here? The crowd immediately became quiet again, because that was a very good question. Jake frowned. What do you mean? The hotel. The ballroom. The date. The loading entrance. Jake looked confused. You sent all that. Emma froze. What? Jake opened the messages again, then showed her. The hotel, the ballroom, the service entrance, the delivery instructions, every detail. Emma grabbed the phone, read, scrolled, read again, then slowly looked up. The panic disappeared from her face. Not completely, but enough. Daniel noticed first, then Olivia, then Ethan. Something had changed. Emma wasn't looking trapped anymore. She was looking confused, deeply confused. Then she looked past Jake, toward the truck, the large enclosed trailer sitting behind him. Her eyes narrowed, then widened, then narrowed again. Wait! Jake turned. What? Emma pointed at the company logo. Harrison Restoration Logistics. Jake nodded. Yeah. The crowd looked at the truck, then at Jake, then at Emma. Nobody understood. Emma stepped closer. You work for Harrison? Yes. The restoration company? Yes. The contact person's name is Jake? Jake blinked. Yes. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Emma covered her mouth. Daniel looked at the truck, then at Emma, then back at the truck. Oh. Sarah looked alarmed. That's another O. No, Daniel said slowly. This is a different O. Emma looked at Ethan. For the first time since he had found her outside, she wasn't panicking. She wasn't trapped. She wasn't desperate. Instead, she looked like somebody who had finally figured out why her wedding had turned into a complete catastrophe. Ethan. He looked at her. She pointed at the truck, then at Jake, then back at the truck, and suddenly started laughing. Not nervous laughter, not guilty laughter. The laughter of somebody realizing something unbelievably stupid. Jake stared. What? Emma laughed harder. Oh my God. What? She pointed at him. I wasn't texting you. The entire crowd froze. Jake blinked. What? I wasn't texting you. Then who were you texting? Emma pointed at the truck. The other Jake. Silence. Daniel stared at the truck, then at Jake, then at Emma, then back at Jake. There was a long pause. Then Daniel said, There are two Jakes? Emma nodded. Jake looked horrified. There are two Jakes. And suddenly, the entire disaster started making sense. Behind them, one of the workers cleared his throat. Ma'am? Everyone turned. The worker pointed toward the trailer. Do you still want us to open it? Emma looked at Ethan, then smiled through tears. Yes. The worker reached for the rear door, and for the first time in 15 minutes, nobody cared about Jake anymore. The rear door rolled upward, and suddenly nothing else mattered. Not the messages, not the rumors, not Jake, not the crowd. Inside the truck sat a beautifully restored vintage Triumph Bonneville motorcycle. Deep blue paint, chrome shining under the loading lights. And on the left side of the fuel tank, a small scratch. The scratch Ethan had made when he was 12 years old. His father's motorcycle. The motorcycle he thought was gone forever. For a moment he simply stared, unable to speak, unable to move. Emma stepped beside him. I spent 8 months looking for it. The crowd fell silent. I found the collector who bought it years ago. He didn't want to sell. I kept calling until he finally agreed. Her voice trembled. Then I found a restoration company willing to bring it back to life. She pointed toward the truck. The contact person was Jacob Harrison. Then she looked at Jake. And apparently I accidentally invited Jake Carter instead. For 1 second, nobody reacted. Then Daniel burst out laughing. The tension shattered instantly. Jake pointed at himself. In my defense, the messages were extremely convincing. Daniel wiped tears from his eyes. You drove 4 hours because you thought your ex-girlfriend wanted you to rescue her from her wedding. Jake sighed. When you say it like that, the entire crowd exploded with laughter. Even Ethan, even Emma. For the first time all evening, everyone could breathe again. Emma's mother started crying, this time happy tears. Her father shook his head and laughed. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. Both, Daniel suggested. Everyone else is. Sarah quietly disappeared behind a group of relatives before Daniel could blame her again. Mark looked disappointed that nobody needed rescuing. The crisis was over. Jake stayed near the truck while everyone slowly started heading back toward the ballroom. Ethan walked over. Jake let out a tired laugh. Well, this was embarrassing. A little. A lot. A lot. They both laughed. Jake looked toward Emma. I really thought she needed me. I know. I feel stupid. Ethan smiled. You should. Jake groaned. Thanks. But you're not a bad guy. Jake looked surprised. You don't think so? No. Just spectacularly confused. That earned another laugh. Then Jake extended his hand. Ethan shook it. No hard feelings? No hard feelings. Jake nodded, then looked toward the truck. I can't believe this whole disaster happened because you were trying to contact Jacob Harrison. Emma laughed. And because I saved him as Jake Restoration. Jake shook his head. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at home reading messages and convincing myself I'm starring in some romantic movie. Daniel immediately appeared. You were. Jake looked hopeful. Really? Daniel nodded. A comedy. The crowd laughed again. Jake accepted his fate. Fair. Then he looked at Emma and Ethan. A genuine smile appeared on his face. I'm happy for both of you. Emma smiled. Thank you. Ethan nodded. Thanks, Jake. A moment later, he picked up his jacket. Halfway to his car, he stopped and looked back. Congratulations. Emma squeezed Ethan's hand. Thank you. Jake smiled one last time, then got into his car and drove away. As the taillights disappeared, Daniel appeared beside Ethan. Good. What? The bride isn't running away. Ethan laughed. The ex isn't a villain. True. And I don't have to give my backup speech. Ethan frowned. You had a backup speech? Daniel grinned. Brother, we ride at dawn. Ethan covered his face. Emma nearly doubled over laughing. The reception restarted. The rumors became jokes. The panic became stories. And somehow, the wedding became even better than before. A few minutes later, Ethan finally walked back toward the motorcycle. The crowd naturally moved aside. Emma stood there waiting, suddenly nervous again. Not because of Jake, not because of the misunderstanding, because she still didn't know what Ethan truly thought of her gift. Ethan slowly ran his hand across the fuel tank, then over the scratch. The same scratch he remembered from childhood. Proof that it was real. Proof that somehow, after all these years, a piece of his father had found its way back to him. Emma quietly stepped beside him. I wanted to give you something nobody else could. Ethan swallowed hard. You did. I wanted to surprise you. A weak smile appeared on her face. I may have overachieved. That earned another round of laughter from the people still nearby. Even Ethan laughed. Then he turned toward her. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then he gently took her face in his hands. For 15 minutes, Emma lowered her eyes. I know. For 15 minutes, I thought my world was falling apart. A tear slipped down her cheek. I'm sorry. Ethan shook his head, then smiled. And then I found out you spent 8 months putting part of it back together. The tears came instantly. Happy tears, the kind worth remembering. Ethan pulled her into his arms and kissed her. The crowd erupted, cheering, whistling, applause. Daniel threw both hands into the air. Thank God! Everyone laughed. The crisis was officially over. Later that night, after most of the guests had returned inside, Daniel somehow got hold of a microphone, which was dangerous, very dangerous. "I would like everyone to know," he announced, "that I had prepared a second speech." The room immediately became interested. Ethan groaned. "No." "Oh, yes." Daniel raised his glass. The title was, a dramatic pause, "Brother, We Ride at Dawn." The room exploded with laughter. Mark shouted from the back, "I was ready!" "No, you weren't," Daniel replied. "I absolutely was. You almost got defeated by a fitted jacket." Even Emma was laughing so hard she had to hold on to Ethan. Daniel raised his glass one final time. But thankfully, the room quieted. He looked toward Emma, then Ethan, then the motorcycle. Thankfully, the bride wasn't running away. A smile. The ex wasn't a villain. Another smile. And the best gift anyone has ever brought to a wedding arrived exactly where it was supposed to. Glasses lifted around the room. Emma squeezed Ethan's hand. Much later, when the reception was ending and the venue had grown quiet, Ethan and Emma stood alone beside the motorcycle. The lights reflected softly across the chrome. Emma leaned against his shoulder. "You know?" "What?" "This didn't exactly go according to plan." Ethan laughed. "No. Not even close." "I'm sorry." He turned toward her. "For what?" "For the chaos." Ethan smiled, then gently pulled her closer. "For 15 minutes I thought my world was falling apart." Emma lowered her eyes. Then Ethan lifted her chin. "And then I found out you spent 8 months putting part of it back together." Tears filled her eyes again. As they stood together beside the motorcycle, Ethan realized something. The best love stories aren't perfect. They're messy, confusing, ridiculous sometimes. But they're built by people who keep choosing each other when everything gets complicated. And their wedding had definitely gotten complicated. But it had also become unforgettable. Because for 15 minutes, an entire wedding believed the bride had disappeared with her ex, when in reality, she was bringing her husband back a piece of his father. And honestly, that made for a much better story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more Reddit stories, relationship drama, wedding chaos, unexpected twists, and heartwarming endings. And remember, sometimes the truth isn't what people assume. Sometimes it's something far more beautiful. See you in the next story.